you kind of, well, I guess I can put my mic down and give it to whoever has to share. Does anyone have to share? Yeah, I'm going to share it. I'll share it with you guys. Okay, if you'll take your seat now, please, and we'll get started. It's 6 o'clock. Everyone, please take their seat. Okay. Thank you. Welcome. Love that buzz. Everybody's having a good time. It's almost like a party. This is democracy at its best. Okay. My name is Virginai Souza, and I'll be your moderator this evening. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of North Santa Barbara County. We're one of hundreds of branches in California and across the country. The National League of Women Voters was formed over 100 years ago when women were fighting for the right to vote. And while we're extremely proud of that heritage, we're also progressive in our approach to nonpartisan voter education and advocacy work. The League welcomes all genders and ethnicities as members and also has removed barriers to non-citizens to become League of Women Voters members, as well as those students who are at least 16 years of age. The nonpartisan nature of League work is critical to the mission. And that means that as an organization, we do not support any candidates or political parties. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our partner for this forum, the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce. We also offer sincere thanks to our forum sponsors, the Fund for Santa Barbara, Santa Maria Times, the Orcutt Pioneer, and Oasis. And finally, thank you to the candidates for sharing their busy lives with the community this evening. And to you, the live audience, for coming out this evening to interview these candidates for a very important job within our city. Thank you in advance for your kind courtesy to the candidates and to fellow audience members. Tonight's interpreter is Jose Farias. Please speak slowly so that he can interpret better. And our videographer is Stephen Paschke in the back. So in a couple days, you'll be able to see this video on our YouTube channel, on the League of Women Voters website, and Santa Maria Times website. I'd like to remind the audience there'll be no unauthorized videos and no editing of the finished video. Here are the rules and formats of tonight's forum that our candidates have agreed to. We'll begin with a flag salute, followed by a land acknowledgement. So please stand for the flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And today is a federal holiday called Columbus Day, or you may also call it Indigenous Peoples Day. Our land acknowledgement this evening is the League of Women Voters of North Santa Barbara County humbly acknowledges that we are speaking to you within the traditional homelands of the Chumash tribe. We recognize and are grateful to the First Nations who set an example of how to live in harmony with the natural world. I will ask the audience now to hold any further applause until the end of this forum. The candidates are not to speak of or to each other, but will address their answers to the audience. There will be no unauthorized videos, which I already mentioned. This will be the format. The candidates have been provided 2 questions by email in advance. They will answer these questions first. Each question will be provided a period of time. It'll be 3 minutes for each of those 2 questions. Our timer tonight is League of Women Voters Secretary, Sandy Boyd. Sandy has paddles for 1 minute. 30 seconds. 15 seconds. And stop. Okay. The candidates were, Mr. Baskett won the coin toss, so he'll be the first one to answer the first question. And the first question is, you have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself to the audience. Describe what education and experiences you have that will aid you in being an effective director for the Santa Maria Public Airport, and talk about what motivated you to run for this office.
Thank you. I want to start off, though, with a public announcement that both Tony and I have signs, and a lot of them have been missing, taken, and other things. And if you know somebody who wants signs, have them call us. We'll give them some. And after the election, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of them available. So, I'm Dave Baskett. Very fortunate to have been brought up and born in California to start with. Then my middle term bringing up from about 8 years old to 17 was in a very strange place called Banaue, Ifugao in the Philippines, where people did not have a written language. They wore G-strings, carried spears, and the average life expectancy was 28. From there, went to Texas to go to aviation school. I was hired to go down and become a pilot in the Amazon jungle at a time when there were no maps in that area. All the U.S. official maps were white, unexplored. From there, the Army got me as a mechanic for helicopters. And the Army wanted me to become a helicopter pilot, so I did that. Then after becoming a helicopter pilot, I was commissioned as an infantry officer in Vietnam. Came back to the U.S. and was assigned to combat-related missions and jobs for 13 years. The last 7 years were something called the military-industrial complex, reporting to Congress, dealing with very highly classified projects. And at the end of 20 years, I moved to Santa Maria, California, where I've loved this place and planned to, I even bought a hole in the ground to bury me in down at the cemetery. So what I've been very fortunate to do is participate over the several years in the goings-on at the airport, where we started out when I was here, we had 3 airlines, and now there's basically none except for 2 flights a week to Las Vegas on a special airline. But I'd like to develop better mechanics and pilot schools. We're short pilots and mechanics. We have a security problem that needs improving, and we need to reduce the cost for our citizens who are at the airport. There have been some bad decisions made recently. 30 seconds, okay, I'll quit. So, you're next.
Hello, my name is Tony Guy. Oh, sorry about that. I was born in Los Angeles, partially raised in Southern California, partially raised in Northern California. I went to UCSB, where I got my degree in mechanical engineering. I met my wife. We were college sweethearts. We got married. We've been married for 36 years. And of those 36 years, we've lived in the Santa Maria Valley for 32 of those years. I immediately out of college went to work for a company that produces laminar airflow bearings for jet engines. So I got involved with jet engines. After that, I got involved with the nacelles, the engine nacelles and pylons, those things that hang the engine onto the aircraft. And from there, I got involved with structures for aircraft. And that's what brought me to Santa Maria. I originally came here to work for a company called C&D Aerospace. They're at the north end of the airport, the largest building around, well, with the exception of the FedEx building today. But we're at the north end of the airport. It's the same building that Ted Smith built the Aerostar. It's the same building that Piper continued the Aerostar, and C&D Aerospace took over after that. While working for C&D Aerospace, I worked as a mechanical design engineer, a manufacturing engineer, I was department manager, operations manager, general manager, and I was responsible over the last 2.5 decades for growing the business in Santa Maria. The business was eventually acquired by Zodiac Aerospace, so I worked for Zodiac, and then that business was eventually acquired by Safran. About 2.5 years ago, I left Safran. I took a job with the Boeing Aircraft Company. I was made an executive with Boeing, and I was CEO for the company called Adient Aerospace. And I don't know if you've noticed, but as Safran moved out of some of the buildings around the airport, Adient Aerospace has moved in. So there's a building that used to be one of the Denmap buildings that's currently Adient Aerospace. And I recently retired from Adient Aerospace. And upon retiring, I let my wife know that I wanted to run for the airport board because I have a love for aircraft. I've always loved aircraft. That's why I've been in the aircraft industry. I know a lot about airports and how they run and FAA regulations. And in retirement, this is something that I want to do. I do want to tell you that I'm running for the airport board because that's something that I want. And I believe I have skills where I can help and assist the airport board going forward. There's a lot of stuff that's been in the news. And I will tell you, I've dealt with some of these things in the past, and I want to be part of the solution for the airport district in the Santa Maria Valley.
Thank you. Question number 2. And this time we'll start with you, Mr. Guy. Question number 2 is, what do you see as the best part of Santa Maria Public Airport? And what areas do you believe need the most improvement? How would you support and improve these areas through your service?
Okay, the best part of the Santa Maria Public Airport is that we have one. I mean, we are very fortunate for a community this size to not only have a great school like Allen Hancock College, but we also have the Santa Maria Airport. It's amazing that we have these facilities accessible to us. It's a great place for private pilots as well as for commercial airlines. We're very fortunate to have that. What do I think are some of the strengths of this Santa Maria Airport? I believe the community is actually one of our biggest strengths, having community support, because I know that most people in this area want to see commercial flights in and out of our airport. So there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of motivation by the taxpayers and the citizens of the Santa Maria Valley to promote the Santa Maria Public Airport. Disadvantages, some of the negatives. I'd say recently we've had some issues, as has been reported in the Santa Maria Times and in Newshawk. So just what I've read from the news about the endangered species habitat that must be created on the property. And again, I want to be part of that solution. I have met with multiple board members and discussed what needs to be done so that I can help them with the prior experience that I have with businesses. Also, the other thing is that the airport needs to figure out how to generate their own revenue. It's difficult relying so heavily on the city and the county and taxes. I mean, the airport should do more in order to generate revenue so that we can continue to grow and flourish. And that's another area where I want to help the existing directors of the airport continue to grow. And I believe that's it.
I was attracted to Santa Maria because of the airport. Used to be 2 airports here. The one went away after World War II, which was the one downtown, and the military base, which was out here now where we have the Santa Maria Airport, became active and was formed as an independent district, which allows a lot of local control, local initiatives, and local support because we're a local airport, independently operated from a lot of other things. We are responsible, though, to the FAA, to the environmental people in the various organizations, and to the community. But it's a beautiful setup. We are lacking airline service. When I came here, we had 3 airlines. I could go out here and buy a ticket and end up anywhere in the world, and I did. We lost that airline service due to the efforts of the airport. United Airlines, about 4 years ago, announced coming back to this airport and start 3 flights a day. one down to LAX in the morning, another one out to the east, another one up to the northwest. That tickets were sold, but unfortunately, COVID came along and about 10,000 aircraft around the world were parked. And a lot of pilots retired and a lot of mechanics were let go. And now as things come back, airlines are under a lot of stress and they are trying to grow rapidly to meet the demands. If you've been to LAX recently or get on a flight or something, you'll see what's going on. So we need to be able to do here, I think, generate our own airline that will be code shared with other airlines and be able to go places that we want to go outside of Las Vegas. We admire the Las Vegas flights. We had 5 of them a week. Now we're down to 2. Hopefully those will come back some. 1 minute left? Okay. The improving security. We've mentioned security before. A very bad incident happened. People got over the fence. They got into a hangar. They stole a truck. They stole a safe and took the truck out without anybody noticing. That's a great failure of our security. That's got to be improved, and it is being improved. International business. We have now gone through a big cycle for many years to reopen what's called the user fee facility so that airplanes can come in here from other countries and bring their business here. And we'll look forward to welcoming them sometime early next year. I think my 30 seconds is probably blown. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, now we are ready for a 10 to 15 minute intermission when we'll have some questions from the audience. So if you need an index card, please let Pam or Melanie know. Pam, are you ready? So Pam and Melanie will get you your index card if you need one and write your question. Use the restroom. There's one for men in the back of the room and around the corner there for women. Have some refreshments and visit with your friends, and we'll let you know when it's time to come back. We'll have time for 5 to 6 questions when we come back. Okay, we're ready to resume. All right, we'll start with Mr. Guy this time. We're allowing 2 minutes. Okay, ready for these wonderful questions? We got good questions from this audience. We couldn't use all of the questions, but we grouped them together and combined them. So we got to most of the issues. Question number 1, what is the size of the airport district budget, if you know it, and is it balanced, if you know that? If you do not, do you have any ideas that would make it balanced? Starting with Mr. Guy. Mr. Guy, this time.
Okay, so I've been pursuing that information. I don't have all the information because I'm not yet a board member, but I've looked into it. Is it balanced? No. And I think I've been able to ascertain that from the articles that I've seen published in the media. And the third part of the question was the last. What are your ideas to balance? Oh, my ideas to balance it. Okay, this is good because we have to figure out how to generate our own revenue using the property and using the assets that already exist there. So for starters, we have a lot of property, and I know that some of it is already leased to farming, and I know that some of it is leased for hangar space and so forth, but there's other portions of the property that can be used to support businesses that are also going to, in return, continue to support the airport. So it needs to be a symbiotic relationship. We need to be able to add value to the businesses around the airport so that those businesses around the airport can go ahead and add more value to the airport itself. So ideas to do that is some of the property that we have is to create our own revenue. That's through a business park. Of course, we would follow all the Santa Barbara County and City of Santa Maria rules and regulations, as well as FAA and so forth. Of course, we would do that. But these are opportunities for us.
The general budget for the airport over several years has been roughly between $4 to $5 million a year, and that has been balanced. In fact, we've had a surplus each year up until recently. And the problem with the surplus now is it's being consumed by settlements with Environmental Protection Agency and others over tiger salamanders. You'll be reading about that if you haven't read about that. But there has been, the airport management has been well run, the books are good, and it's been in balance. Big projects require external funding, usually given by the FAA for a 90% FAA and 10% airport. Those have been shut off now for a couple of years because of the dynamics with the environmental issues. So that has now run us into the red. Up until then, we're balanced, and it's had a slight surplus, usually. No, you ask, want to know what to do to improve it? Get more business.
All right, second question. How will you handle complying with the settlement with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife? Mr. Baskett, we'll start with you.
This will probably be quoted in the papers because it's negative. But we have made a settlement. It's a bad settlement, but it's much better than everything else that we have been negotiating on now off and on for 20 years. And how we handle it will be in compliance with the agreements that were reached about a month ago. That's how we'll handle it.
May I ask you to repeat the question?
How would you handle the issues with the Fish and Wildlife?
Okay, well, from the beginning, we shouldn't have got ourselves in this predicament. So that's where I start. I have not been on the board, but I would say that the previous board has been negligent, or this would not have happened. So again, I don't know how far back this goes, but I know it goes back quite a ways. How should we handle it? Well, we need to partner with Fish and Wildlife instead of making them our adversary. Partner with them so that we can understand what the needs are so that we can go ahead and comply. And then we need to comply with integrity, and we need to comply understanding the cost to the airport and the cost to the community to do so. And then we need to figure out a way in order to make this a positive for our community, to have this wildlife habitat, because it can be a positive. It depends upon how we look at it. It depends upon how we manage it along with Fish and Wildlife. And that's where we need to put some energy. And again, that's where I said at the beginning, I want to be part of that solution because it can be managed positively and it can be a positive thing for our community now that we've already been dealt these cards.
Thank you. Now we will start with Mr. Baskett with this one. How would you keep up with infrastructure damage and repairs to businesses needing it?
We've done a pretty bad job at this for the last many years. But it needs to be done. We had a new airport manager come in who looked around and says, man, this place really needs new roads, new pavement, and other things. Now that this Fish and Wildlife item has been settled, and what has been suggested by Tony will be done with cooperation, full cooperation, to develop a wildlife sanctuary out at the airport in good faith. What needs to be done now is that the funds that were locked up will be released, and we need to start fixing up a lot of the places on the airport that needed fixing. Maintenance on the airport needs help.
Okay, to follow on with what Mr. Baskett said, there is a lot of maintenance that's needed at the airport, and we need to be looking at the airport the same way we look at our own homes, right? Our own homes need to be maintained. You must continually maintain your home if you continue to live in it. Now, there are some properties on the airport that are in terrible need of repair. They're in complete disrepair. And those properties need to be repaired, they need to be maintained, they need to be put on a maintenance plan, and it's the airport's responsibility to do so. There's also things like the runway, the tarmac, the aprons, they are badly worn. Our airport cannot function with asphalt runways and taxiways that don't meet the standards. We must see that we resurface these areas. We must see that we get the revenue that's required in order to implement a maintenance plan for all of these things. Now, how did we get here? That's a good question. I don't know how we got here. I just know that I want to be part of the solution to take us forward.
Okay, Mr. Guy, we will start with you this time. How do you plan to engage local youth in aviation?
Oh, this is a great question, because I am involved with aircraft today because as a youth, I was taken to an airport and a private pilot showed me their aircraft. And private pilots are very enthusiastic when it comes to showing their aircraft and explaining how aircraft work. It's important that the airport district works with the pilots and works with the airlines and works with the other companies at the airport, like English Air, in order to bring in the children from our community and the students and the adults in our community so that they can understand how the airport operates, the value of an aircraft at an airport, and let them be excited to see aircraft. Let them be excited to be around them. And it's not just an air show. I'll tell you, an air show is great because lots of people are around and can see these aircraft. But when you bring students in, they get personal time often with the pilot, or personal time with the person that's responsible for the aircraft. And those people have such energy and enthusiasm that it drives the interest into the youth.
Without the next generation getting interested in aviation, learning to be pilots and mechanics, we will lose our status as a nation, and the world will be better off. I'll be worse off. Yeah, much worse off. Right now, we have a great shortage of mechanics and pilots throughout the aviation industry, and we need to reestablish mechanics and pilot schools here. As far as the young people, I've been very fortunate. I've had students who had some troubles at school, and I'd be called and wanted to know if I could teach them some of the aviation things, and they had them work on aircraft in the hangar. And some of them now have gone on to much better things. Those were paid for by organization. They were paid an hourly rate that was reasonable by the organization, and I opened up my hangar to give training to those students. We hope they come back, and now we've had a new cycle after COVID, and the school's getting back into this, of having candidates come back, young kids come back to the airport and get exposed to aviation. We also have at the airport a wonderful organization called Civil Air Patrol. Civil Air Patrol has been around for a good long time, and it needs better facilities. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Guy, you're next. Do you support the continued use of the airport by the U.S. military? If so, what are your plans to alleviate the noise issue?
I support the use of our airport for aircraft, and that includes private aircraft, commercial aircraft, and military aircraft. I do. I promote that, but I do think that we need to communicate with the residents in this area to explain to them what's happening. We need to explain to them which aircraft are coming in, and we also need to be cognizant of the noise that's generated in certain neighborhoods. I had somebody here locally bring me to their home and show me how their house is impacted by some of the things that are happening. And it's something you have to see, you have to witness it personally, because otherwise, if you're just sitting back, you don't understand the impact. And even while I was there, I got a true feel for the pressure that it applies to these homeowners. So I'm for it, but I do think we need to do a lot more communication, and I do think we owe it to the residents of this area. We owe it to share more information, to be more transparent, so that people can plan for things.
Being a former military pilot, I used to enjoy making noise. We at this airport, of course, have an FAA control towers. 5,000 airports roughly in the United States, of which only 400 have control towers. And those rules for approaches and departures and noise limitations are run basically by the FAA. However, we have seen a decrease in what was called a high overhead 360 approach, where a young fighter pilot, you fly down at high speed past the tower, do a left hand and right hand turn, go into a circle, pop out the gear, slow down. And so that means 2 noise events for somebody living close to the airport instead of 1. I've seen a decrease in that. Most of the aircraft coming in now follow pretty much a standard airline type pattern. And I know that some people enjoy the noise, some people don't. A lot of people have pets, but it's an ongoing thing where with the FAA, in accordance with FAA rules, we can encourage the straight in approaches rather than the noisy ones.
Very good. Okay, this is our last question. How would you improve community relations and communication about the activities at the airport? Mr. Baskett, I'll let you go first.
There are things that are called airport days. We haven't had one here really except for the air shows. I believe that it's a good thing to have an airport day for the high schools and the junior high schools and the grammar schools, where we organize at the airport buses to have students come out and take them around. I've personally taken a lot of people around, students and others, around the airport to show them the wonderful airport that we have. And with the wonderful airport we have, nothing's perfect, and we need to improve it, but airport days, and also inviting people to come out, spend a little time at the airport, sitting in maybe the control tower for a little bit. I've taken a lot of people up the control tower so they can learn what's going on and observe what it looks like up there. We live here because of the community. We are responsible to the community, and we should respond to the community's interest or lack of interest by giving them more information. And I just got a 1-minute warning. I always like to give time back. So anyway, here we go.
So improving the communication, there's really simple ways to do it. There are Facebook pages, there's Instagram accounts, there's all kinds of social media. But in addition to that, we need to inform the local news media so that it can be published in the papers as well, so that the residents are aware. What we have to do is we have to figure out how to reach everybody. And there are very simple ways. We're in an election year right now, and our nominations, our nominees are reaching out to the public now through some relatively simple means, and we just need to copy that. I'm not quite sure why the airport hasn't done that in the past, but I do think it's important going forward. It's really important that the people in our community are aware of not only what we're doing, but what's happening in the airport. They need to be aware of things that are going to cost them taxpayer dollars. They need to be aware of the issues that the airport is facing so that the community can come alongside and support the airport. So I strongly believe in partnering with the community, again, through communication, but also finding out who the movers and shakers are in the community, those people that have the highest degree of interest in these things, and invite them to participate with us. It's all too important being a resident in the Santa Maria Valley, and communication to all of the residents is absolutely imperative.
Very good. Thank you for answering those questions. Now you'll have the opportunity in 2 minutes to summarize your positions, to either highlight your strengths, repeat something that you think is important, or just bring up something new if you'd like to. And we'll start with, who will we start with? Him? Okay, would you like to start, Tony? Okay, we'll start with Mr. Guy.
We're going to start with the young guy. Right? The right guy. Okay.
That's against the rules.
Oh, no, but that's the slogan on my webpage at
Okay.
tonyguy.vote. So, so closing comments. I have spent a lot of time with each of the board members and the general manager of the airport this year. I've spent a lot of time getting to know what issues they face and explaining to them my background and areas in which I can bring support to the airport. I think I'm a great choice for the airport because I have a different background. I have a business background, and we need to put in place some rules and running the airport district according to a business. Now, and I'm not saying that they don't already do that, but what I'm saying is I bring skills to help that are going to help drive us forward, that are going to help improve the way that the airport operates today. Also, I want to be part of the solution going forward as far as the issues that the airport is facing today. There are great opportunities for us to come out on top within our community, and great ways to come out on top and to take some, I would say, some relatively bad things that have happened and turn those into good things so that we can do more to support the residents of the Santa Maria Valley, or to support the residents in all of northern Santa Barbara County, because this is really an airport that's used by all North Santa Barbara County. Thank you.
Two things. First, we've had a very destructive thing happen at the airport, and that was a 50% raise in hangar rates. We're now going to be losing our citizens of the airport, and they are the citizens that hold this place together. We're a general aviation airport. General aviation means everything except military and airlines. So terrible things happen. I hope that gets reversed. And if I stay on the board, hopefully with your votes, I'll do my best to get that reversed. The other item is airlines. We all want airline service. The airlines will slowly come back as they've been recovering from the great tragedies and events and challenges that they've gone through. But I will be here to support new airline service. I've run an airline, been an airline, and I think we have a good chance of restoring good airline service at Santa Maria Airport, and that's my goal for the next term.
Very good. And that concludes our forum for this evening. We'll thank everyone for coming. Thank you for the candidates. Very good. Thank you. You might want to pick up a pros and cons, which explains in simple terms all the measures on your ballot. They're over at the league table if you'd like to pick one of these up. Thank you and good night.